Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Monmouth County. My name is Joe Donahue. My pronouns are he, his, and him, and it's my pleasure to serve as a member of both our worship and nominating committees. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Our mission is to create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world. This morning, we welcome a guest musician, Madeline Giordana. Madeline is a pianist with a special love for collaboration. Ever since her 8th grade choir teacher asked her to accompany a concert, she's been hooked on making music with others. Some of her favorite settings include musical theater productions, choir concerts, and worship services. She recently moved to New Jersey from Wisconsin to begin a job at Rutgers in the Career Service Center. Madeline holds a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics from Saint Olaf College in Minnesota and a master's degree in Educational Psychology and Counseling from the University of Minnesota. She loves her 2 cats, swing dancing, crafting with friends, crossword puzzles, and quality time with her partner, Eric. Welcome, Madeline. I draw your attention to the backside of your orders of service for announcements and service information for next week. For those on the live stream and for video viewers, the order of service link is available to you in the YouTube service description box. Following the story wisdom, kids are invited to join Emma Farkas for Sunday Fun Day, games, crafts, getting to know each other, and most importantly, having fun while in community. After the service, those gathered in person are welcome to visit with one another. Refreshments will be served in the community room, and people of all ages are welcome to visit with one another. If you are new to us, please do visit our website, uucmc.org, where you can sign up to get all the latest news of the congregation by email. We look forward to getting to know you better. Please put your devices on silent as we enter into worship together. Welcome again to this place of love and hope. Thank you, Madeline. That was wonderful. According to Wikipedia, hope is an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes with respect to events and circumstances in one's life or the world at large. I would venture to state that all of us at the service this morning or viewing it at one time or another have expressed some measure of hope. Hope is compelling, universal, and at times necessary to our well-being. It involves optimism, motivation, and very often a plan or strategy in order to realize some measure of success. Expressions of hope run the gamut from hoping for the absence of rain on a weekend to hoping that a loved one recovers from an illness. The need and the value of having hope in our lives was expressed beautifully in the following poem by Liesl Müller, entitled, as you may have guessed, Hope. Liesl Müller was born in Hamburg in 1924 and came to the U.S. at the age of 15 when her family was forced to flee the Nazis. The death of her mother moved her to write poetry. Her awards include the National Book Award in 1981 and the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry in 1997. The only German-born poet awarded that prize. Hope by Liesl Müller. It hovers in dark corners before the lights are turned on. It shakes sleep from its eyes and drops from mushroom gills. It explodes in the starry heads of dandelions turned sages. It sticks to the wings of green angels that sails from the tops of maples. It sprouts in each occluded eye of the many-eyed potato. It lives in each earthworm segment surviving cruelty. It is the motion that runs from the eyes to the tail of a dog. It is the mouth that inflates the lungs of the child that has just been born. It is the singular gift we cannot destroy in ourselves, the argument that refutes death, the genius that invents the future, all we know of God. It is the serum which makes us swear not to betray one another. It is in this poem, trying to speak. Today in our service, you'll hear 4 different reflections on hope from Allison Mitchell, Marinel Mukherjee, Liz Tortorella, and me. The intent of this service and our reflections is to help all of us evaluate the presence, the power, and the necessity of hope in our lives. As stated by Larissa M. Denny, hope is a glimmer of light when light is absent. It's a fight against darkness. May feelings of hope surround you now and in the future, and may you especially feel it here in this place of love and hope. It's now my pleasure to call on Bob Kelly to light our chalice today. Bob, as you all know, is a valued member of our congregation who's always willing to lend a hand and share his talents with us. As we light our chalice, let us reflect on the words of Unitarian Universalist Pat Leakey. We light our chalice this morning knowing that our hope and our passion are needed to change the world. We bring different gifts to this work, but we come together in one faith, that what we do makes a difference, both to our world and in ourselves. May hope prevail in all we are and all we do. Thank you, Bob. Please stand as you are able and turn to hymn 360 in our gray hymnal. Here we have gathered, and we'll be singing just the first and the third verses.
Oh, Okay. I want our children present or on the live stream to know that those of us speaking today will explore hope and share thoughts and readings about it. I have a short poem written in the voice of a child who's sad and frustrated by the loss of a jigsaw puzzle piece. People of all ages will understand this poem. It's called Jigsaw Puzzle, and it was written by Russell Hoban. My beautiful picture of pirates and treasure is spoiled, and almost I don't want to start to put it together. I've lost all the pleasure I used to find in it. There's one missing part. I know there's one missing. They lost it, the others, the last time they played with my puzzle. And maybe there's more than one missing. Along with the brothers and sisters who borrow my toys, there's the baby. There's a hole in the ship or the sea that it sails on. And I said to my father, well, what shall I do? It isn't the same now that some of it's gone. He said, put it together. The world's like that too. The last line of that poem is memorable. I chose it because it reminds us, especially children, that even though things can disappoint us, we can seek support from a loved one to help us find comfort and guidance. The father's line, the world's like that too, passes on hopeful wisdom in a simple, direct way. Whether it's a lost puzzle piece, a lost pet, a lost loved one, we want to learn how to put things together, to balance sadness with the other good things in our lives. That's what we're talking about today. And before our youngsters leave, I add that I'm grateful this congregation is a place where kids and adults can talk about what's on our minds, sharing both our difficulties and happier experiences. And before we sing Go Now in Peace, we're going to ask you going forward in this service to hold applause until after the closing words. I'll remind you at that time. And now we'll sing the kids out to Go Now in Peace.
Good morning. My name's Marinel Mukherjee, and I'm going to start with a poem called Lost Souls. It's by Dick Allen. Somewhere they're convinced there's one answer, one horse, one lottery number of which they're not yet aware. And so they wander from one enthusiasm to the next. One secret, one whisper, one poetry reading in the middle of the night to another, then another. The answer is always around the next corner, behind the next door. Since lost souls always draw near, they're sure the answer will appear and all will be made clear. Possibly tomorrow, and if not then, the day after. But just as when birds fly, they encounter the air, so also wherever we go and wherever we are, the answer is here, already here. Juice dribbling from the pear. Maybe it's laughter. Juice dribbling from the pear, or maybe it's laughter. Maybe it's that peach I had at breakfast this morning, wonderful. Or maybe it's a walk in the heat or the cold, or cuddling with my purring cat, or a call from a friend, or being brave and trying something new. or creating. Not just what's considered art, but every moment, every interaction with another. Around 15 years ago, when I was a lapsed Unitarian, I was going through a difficult time. Within 2.5 years, I divorced, moved out on my own, and retired. My marriage had been difficult. My husband traveled a great deal of the time, and I cared for my mother-in-law who had dementia. I had very little life outside of work and home. I had a few friends and no community. When I first moved to my own place, I felt seriously ungrounded. So I came back to UUCMC. In referring to the poem, it turned out to be a big part of The Answer Is Here. Reverend Virginia once said, "Our congregation is replete with organized activities, but just as important are all the activities that she did not know about. The friendships, the kindnesses, the assumption that everyone here is valuable." I slowly began to heal and grow. Slowly, I began to trust this community. One landmark in my UU life occurred when I took responsibility for the soup luncheons. Part of me thought I could do it, but it also frightened me. What if not enough people volunteered to bring soups? I would be responsible if things did not work out. Of course, it does take work on my part, but it's not that I'm responsible for its success, but rather we are responsible. I have learned to trust this community. It's wonderful to know, to trust that we come together and that we support each other. Every week I interact with UUs who are open and kind, and referring to the poem, creating a here. We are a loving and supportive community.
So wonderful to see you all. Wasn't sure if anyone would be here on such a beautiful summer day. Thank you for coming. And my name is Allison Mitchell. I serve on the worship committee and membership committee with Lisa Arcolio and soup luncheons and things. My reflection, exploration of hope. On the walls of my teenage bedroom were various pictures, posters of hope. A tabby kitten, very 1970s, grasping a midair branch, "Hang on, baby, Friday's coming." A handsome, sweet baby James Taylor, you can imagine what my hopes were there. A not at all handsome frog sitting in the center of an elegant china plate, lace tablecloth, crystal glasses, with a shocking caption, "Eat a live toad for breakfast and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day." A Bugs Bunny. "Don't take life so seriously, Doc. You're not getting out alive." And a soulful basset hound. "Blessed are they who expect nothing, for they will not be disappointed." And there's the rub, the almost danger of that four-letter word, hope. We believe we know that what we hope for is best. Then hope becomes risky, a threat of unbearable disappointment. So if I don't fall into that trap of expecting or even hoping for all to be well by my belief and definition of what well means, then I can take control by preparing myself for the worst, embracing the worst case scenario. My foundation cannot be shaken then, right? It's certainly the safest bet, However, if I slam the door on hope entirely, then how tensely pre-defeated must I stay? Eeyore, shuffling through the world, weighted down in anticipatory grief, the safe realist, opposite of silly Pollyanna hope. Doesn't remaining hopeful feel like too much vulnerability? But what if we don't define our well-being by a specific outcome? It does seem that we clearly know how and when it should all unfold exactly, but do we? Control is an illusion. Maybe, just maybe, however, we can still hope if we also let go of the belief that we completely know what and when the outcome must be. Think of this moment you are in. Just be here now. Feel the warmth, see the light of this sunny day, the beauty. Deeply breathe in peace, breathe out love. The now doesn't need to be defined by where you were before you got here, what you have to do when you leave, what news you've gotten or anticipate getting, good or bad, on the personal or worldwide stage. Your peace, happiness, and well-being are found in this stillness within you, in thankfulness for each given moment, come what may. That said, with a world of hurt, it's okay, maybe even essential to our well-being to still hope for the best. Again, as long as we don't entirely let either good or bad outcomes define our ability to find happiness after we blow out the candles or the dust settles from the burnt cake. We really are too clueless, perhaps by design, to entirely know what this moment's good or bad will mean in the end. It may all reveal itself in our time, or not. Trust and faith really comes into play when we don't get the outcome we seek. And meanwhile, we will continue to do our best, work toward what we can, as we can, and also accept it's okay and necessary for our well-being to just be. That way, we can still gently hold on to our hopes, but not in a grasping way. Don't attach yourself to that hope like it's the one thing that will make or break you. Let hope be, with a gentle blow of the dandelion, let go of the outcome which drifts into many possible fates. As many of you know, Steve and I have struggled along with our adopted older children from Russia with many unforeseen challenges and outright catastrophes, including the death of our son Evan at age 23 from an accidental drug overdose, and the resulting emotional impact on our daughters, his older sister Christina, 24 at the time, so close she was almost his twin, and youngest sister Liliana, who had just turned a fragile 15. A horrific blow to all of our worlds. Lily has been in and out of rehabs over the past 3 years, from alcoholism, which morphed into heroin and fentanyl addiction. We drift in and out of hope, coming to rest as often as we can in the moment and just be. In sharing these grievous situations and others with many in this beloved community, we come to realize we are not alone in carrying heavy burdens. Much has been said about the power of envisioning things working out, a vision of hope. Again, that's fine and helpful, as long as we don't beat ourselves up for our inability to always manifest the best outcome. Meanwhile, in our hearts and minds, we can surround ourselves and those we love in positive, healing light, where, in community and support, we find there is solace in that beautiful caring intention. Sometimes it's all we have to offer. To hold each other in our hearts, help keep our hopes alive here for one another, and letting go of the breath we've been holding in so tightly helps calm our nervous systems. Caring, soulful smiles and loving, heartfelt hugs go a very long way. Prayers for peace need not always be for specific outcomes. Life is not a wish factory. Feeling bad about oneself if that wish isn't granted. Our challenging existence is to be thankful for being. Celebrate as often as possible. Endure when difficult with a hopeful balance of peace. Our quest is not only to find it for and within ourselves, but also to help others find theirs.
Every week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation. For those of you present here in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by the ushers. You may also join this time of generosity via text, send your offering by mail, or charge your contributions online. Please give generously. Thank you. Thank you again, Madeline. Hope. It appears to employ a degree of resiliency on our part. I'm always amazed when individuals, groups of people, or nations maintain their feelings of hope when past hopes lie unfulfilled or dashed. The indigenous people of North America are prime examples of this resilience. Their lands taken away, their holy places violated, and their culture, to a certain extent, swept away by the excessive quest for power and wealth. Yet hope remains. So as I thought about my contribution to the service, I was drawn to the following story about hope expressed by a Native American who still saw the value and the necessity of hope in our lives. This story is not only about hope, it's also about the importance of listening, especially to the Sioux and many other Native American cultures. They believe that you can tell a lot about a person by how well they listen, and they also believe that listening to one another, especially to an elder, honors the divine within each person. As stated by John Two Hawks and Oglala Lakota Sioux, to speak wisely, one must listen humbly. When the much-loved father of Joseph Marshall, a Lakota Sioux, born and raised on the Rosebud Sioux Reservation in South Dakota, and the author of The Lakota Way and Keep Going, The Art of Perseverance, passed away, Joseph turned to his wise grandfather, known as Old Hawk, for solace and guidance, and he listened humbly as his grandfather answered his question, why is life so difficult? His grandfather's wisdom regarding this question provided Joseph with comfort, inspiration, and a perspective on life that requires perseverance, sometimes pleasure, sometimes pain, and yes, hope. Joseph memorialized his grandfather's words in the following poem, Keep Going. Keep Going by Joseph Marshall. A young man, it's a prose poem, by the way, it's a little bit different. A young man asked his grandfather why life had to be so difficult sometimes. This was the old man's reply. Grandfather says this, in life there is sadness as well as joy, losing as well as winning, falling as well as standing, hunger as well as plenty, badness as well as goodness. I do not say this to make you despair, but to teach you reality. Life is a journey, sometimes walked in light, sometimes in shadows. Grandfather says this, you did not ask to be born, but you are here. You have weaknesses as well as strengths. You have both because in life there's two of everything. Within you is the will to win as well as the willingness to lose. Within you is the heart to feel compassion as well as the smallness to be arrogant. Within you is the way to face life as well as the fear to turn away from it. Grandfather says this, life can give you strength. Strength can come from facing the storms of life, from knowing loss, feeling sadness and heartache, from falling into the depths of grief. You must stand up in the storm. You must face the wind and the cold and the darkness. When the storm blows hard, you must stand firm. For it's not trying to knock you down. It is really trying to teach you to be strong. Grandfather says this, being strong means taking one more step toward the top of the hill. No matter how weary you may be, it means letting the tears flow through the grief. It means to keep looking for the answer, though the darkness of despair is all around you. Being strong means to cling to hope for one more heartbeat, one more sunrise. Each step, no matter how difficult, is one more step closer to the top of the hill. To keep hope alive for one more heartbeat at a time leads to the light of the next sunrise and the promise of a new day. Grandfather says this, the weakest step toward the top of the hill, toward sunrise, toward hope, is stronger than the fiercest storm. Grandfather says this, keep going. Joseph's grandfather spoke further on the topic of hope, stating that hope is one of the sparks by which life sustains itself. The ability to hope is one of life's greatest gifts. The moment we hope that all will go well, we have likely ensured some level of success. Or at the very least, we've increased the odds in our favor. Grandfather cautioned that there are no guarantees that hope will bring about the desired outcome. But if we do not or cannot hope, we have empowered the cause of our difficulty. Cling to hope, grandson, no matter what happens, says grandfather. Remind yourself that there will be another sunrise, and chances are hope will help you see it. Every step is a prayer answered. Every step is a spark that defies the darkness of despair. Grandfather exclaimed with all his might, defy the darkness. Joseph listened intently and humbly. heeded the wisdom of his grandfather, and followed his heart-filled advice. Keep going. I'll end this reflection on hope with the words of Franklin Kahn, a Navajo elder. How can we find our real true self? We have to look inside. We have the answers in ourselves. We have to stop and take the time to rediscover our true selves. It may take work to return to our real, pure hearts, and it is possible, Franklin Kahn believes, that in doing so, we can finally come together, for hope resides within us and in the promise of tomorrow. Keep going. Defy the darkness.
This morning, I tell you about two memorable experiences that helped restore me and brought some hope. Perhaps you will find them helpful. First, as many of you know, I lost my son Matthew, age 17, back in the spring of 1999. I was a single parent at the time. I add that I was fortunate to have a great deal of support from this congregation and other areas of my life. But as you can understand, even with loving support, it was a dark, dark time. For this talk, I now fast forward 1 year to spring of 2000. I had been to see my family in the Bronx, all of us heartbroken, and was driving home on the Parkway. I remember those moments very clearly. I came up on the Driscoll Bridge over the river. The weather was sunny and mild, the car windows were down, and an unfamiliar Rachmaninoff melody, which stunned me with its beauty, came over the radio. And some small but significant thing happened in those moments. Somehow, the combination of the fresh air, the sunshine, the melody, brought me the astonishing new awareness that despite bone-crushing grief, there could still be beautiful things to enjoy. At the time, it was a complete revelation. I would not have thought it was possible. I hadn't thought much about beauty or enjoying things during that first year. I was just too encased in a mental fog. I don't want to pretend what I experienced on that drive home was a grand epiphany. It was a quiet, subtle shift within my heart that brought some hope that there could still be beauty in my life. So much had been lost, but now I discovered some good things remained. And it was like part of a weight was lifted from my shoulders. And I tell you about it in the hope that moments of such grace could come to others in their dark times. The second thing I want to tell you about is an article I read a decade later in the New York Times. It was now 2011, and they were interviewing authors who had written about grief. One of the authors was Joyce Carol Oates. I learned she had lost her husband in 2008 and had written a memoir titled A Widow's Story. Oates told this to the interviewer, and I quote her in these next few paragraphs. She writes, "Profound losses leave us paralyzed and mute, unable to really comprehend them, still less to speak coherently about them. Yet eventually, we do speak, we breathe, we sleep, we eat, we go for walks in the sun. We find ourselves laughing with friends. We marry again, as I have, to our astonishment. as we lose the white-hot flame of the most intransigent grief and pass into another, less desperate sort of being. Often it's said that survivors must move on, make a new life for themselves. It's impossible to say if this is only just wishful thinking or has some basis in human psychology. But surely those who have been magnanimous in life can be imagined as magnanimous in death. We want to believe that the deceased whom we loved would love us enough to wish us well in what remained of our lives. And she ends with, "For the old life is gone, the old love has vanished." Grief is the most humane of emotions, but it is a one-sided emotion. It is not reciprocated. That's the end of her quote. A decade after my son's death, it was still helpful for me to read those words about balancing sadness, and I share them with you in the hope that her insight about eventually trying to live fully eases your path in dark times, as well as mine. In closing, I add, I would not have been able to speak about this for the first 10 years after losing Matthew. But today seemed like a good fit. And that has to do with the trust and affection of this place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madeline. It's beautiful. Before I say a word for our prayer and meditation, I just wanted to share what hopefully you may have received from your caring captain last evening, and there would be more information coming in the e-blast this week. Irene Passmore had written, our beloved UUCMC Family Minister Chair, Sari Albertus, sustained broken ribs and collarbone from a horseback riding accident on Friday. She is in Jersey Shore University Medical Center. Our prayers are so with her and her family. She's receiving treatment and care and will be there for a few more days recovering. Sari would welcome cards and notes which can be sent to her home so that husband Steve can bring to her while she's hospitalized. And their home address you'll find in the directory, and I believe will also be in the e-blast, keeping her in our thoughts and prayers. For our prayer and meditation, in addition to Sari and her family, I offer these thoughts. I've found that when dashed by personal or worldwide waves of misfortune, I can still hold on to the lifelines thrown by dear friends, this community especially, and find the strength within myself to know that whatever is left after the storm, we will get up and keep going, rebuild, or reimagine. In each of our lives, we're all just doing the best we can to steer our battered ships in the right direction, despite tides and winds we can never fully anticipate. Whatever course you end up on, out of the storm or onward through the tempest, please take a moment now to breathe it all in, to feel your own solitary strength. Lean into supportive togetherness when offered, if you can, and yes, embrace gently that hope we all have for each other on this unknown journey of our blue boat home. And now we sit together in silence. Now, as you're able, please stand and join us for our hymn number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Blue Boat Home, while this hymn is often included in services with an environmental focus, the words also evoke a perspective on this life, a hopefulness that we are always moving forward together into the majestic and unfathomable mystery of this existence.
I have two short readings to share with you for our closing words. But first, I want to thank Allison, Joe, Marinel, and I want to thank everyone who supported this service, the ushers, the tech, the staff, all the volunteers who make this work, and thank you, Madeline. It's really great to have you with us. And we want to thank Reverend Craig for encouraging Worship Committee to present this service. It has been a rich experience. The first reading is a paragraph from Kay Redfield Jamison's book, An Unquiet Mind, a memoir of moods and madness. This book is about her terrible struggles with bipolar disorder, the medications that helped her, and the love of her brother and second husband, which helped save her. She writes, and I sent this paragraph to PJ and Noel after their service 3 weeks ago. When I first thought about writing this book, I conceived of it as a book about moods and an illness of moods in the context of an individual life. As I have written it, however, it has somehow turned out very much to be a book about love as well. Love as sustainer, as renewer, and as protector. After each seeming death within my mind or heart, love has returned to recreate hope and to restore life. It has, at its best, made the inherent sadness of life bearable and its beauty manifest. It has inexplicably and savingly provided not only cloak, but lantern for the darker seasons and grimmer weather. And that ends her quote. The four of us contemplated that phrase, cloak and lantern, and were kind of dazzled by it, actually. Protection and light to move forward. And we're grateful this congregation helps provide us. And finally, please remain seated while we read together number 470 in the gray hymnal, in the gray hymnal. You'll join me in reading the italics, okay? We affirm the unfailing renewal of life, rising from earth and reaching for the sun, all living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship, rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars. People the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to bring a better world. Thank you. Come join us for coffee hour. We brought refreshments, and now is the time to applaud Madeline. See you at coffee hour.